Well, greetings to all my clients. My name is Walter Mizars, your wealth advisor. I'd like to share some Polish Easter traditions with you. As you may know, I am of Polish heritage. I was born in Poland, came here when I was 9 years old. So I thought it'd be a nice tradition to share some of my Polish Easter traditions with my clients. So the first thing that comes to mind as far as Easter in Poland is what we call pisanki, which is colored eggs. As you can see in the picture, they're beautiful handmade colored eggs. It takes a lot of talent to really paint these eggs. There's an art to this. I've seen it done in person in Poland. And I think, to paint one egg, it may take 3, 4, 5 hours to do it the proper way. So as you can see, they're very, very beautiful. And again, that's one of the Polish traditions is before Easter, typically you would paint these eggs maybe a week ahead of time in preparation for Saturday blessing of food baskets. Here's another beautiful picture of pisanki. Looks like setting is somewhere in a Polish village. Again, you can see the artwork is just absolutely amazing. Here's another picture with some traditional Polish palms that would be used on Easter Palm Sunday, and with pisanki in front. And I'm always amazed when I look at this, artwork. It is absolutely amazing. And this is being passed on generation to generation. Actually, in Poland, it's still commonplace to have pisanki where women get together and families get together and paint their eggs for Saturday for blessing of the baskets. Also, that tradition is kept up in United States. Many Polish communities, Detroit metro area, New York, all over Chicago, very popular custom to get together and paint some pisanki or colored eggs. This is what we would call a traditional, traditional food basket for blessing. So once you prep, you have pisanki, you have sausage, bread, boiled eggs. Here's another traditional food basket for blessing. Sausage, you will see salt, pepper, horseradish, always a lamb of representing Christ. Of course, always bread and pisanki, which you would take this basket to church Saturday. Typically, I know in the Detroit metro area, many churches have blessing of Easter baskets. I know our parish, Our Lady of Częstochowa Church, this Saturday had it from 10 to 1 o'clock. It's a beautiful, beautiful tradition. Here again, another example, a family. This is in Poland, I believe in Kraków. I can see in the background Sukienica. A whole family is carrying Easter baskets for blessing. Again, tradition is always on Saturday before Easter, and you would take your basket to church, or sometimes it would be done outside of church. Here's beautiful table, people bringing their baskets. I believe this is also in Kraków, but you can see how the baskets are just beautiful, decorated, and a variety. I mean, tradition, you would have bread, of course, sausage, some ham, some horseradish, beet, salt, pepper, some babka, baked goods. Again, this is preparation Saturday blessing for Easter breakfast. And again, some blessings of the basket occur inside the church, and you can see the church is packed, and the priest is blessing the baskets that are put in front of the altar. Again, another scene. Actually, this is outside of the church. Set up a table. People bring their beautiful, beautiful baskets. It almost becomes a little bit of a competition who has the nicer looking basket. People are very proud. They want to decorate and put their best basket on the table. Obviously, weather permitting, many churches do this outside, but traditionally it would be done inside the church, in front of the altar, or if there's a hall, they may do it inside the hall, like our church, Our Lady of Częstochowa, does. So Easter Saturday, we've got our baskets and food blessed, and then this would be Easter Resurrection Mass. And in Polish tradition, before Easter Resurrection Mass, which is typically 7 o'clock, sometimes as early as 6 in the morning, you would have a procession. And that procession would be outside the church, again, weather permitting. If it's raining or cold, then it would be inside the church. And again, tradition would, the procession would go 3 times around the church or inside the church, representing the 3 days that Jesus was laid in the tomb, and on the 3rd day he rose. So beautiful, beautiful tradition. Many people come out to Easter Resurrection Mass, not only in Poland, but also here in the United States. I know our parish, Our Lady of Częstochowa Church, has one at 7 o'clock, and traditionally Easter procession around the church, again 3 times, in memory of Christ being in the tomb for 3 days. Here's another picture of Easter Sunday Resurrection Mass in Poland. Again, there's tremendous amount of people that come out to Resurrection Mass in Poland, and also in the U.S. it's becoming, that tradition is kept pretty well in the Detroit Metro, Chicago. Many churches still retain that tradition of Easter Resurrection Mass procession. And here would be a typical representation of Christ, the tomb, and again Easter Sunday, because Christ has risen, the tomb was empty, and you have the traditional cross with the white cloth representing the resurrection of Christ. Now we've gone to church early in the morning. It's time for Easter breakfast. And wow, in Polish tradition, it is an amazing feast. And typically as a child, I remember growing up in Poland, and here in the U.S., we would go to Easter Sunday, Easter Resurrection Mass at 7, and then right after we would prepare the table. So around 9, we would have our traditional Easter breakfast. Some people do it a little bit later, call it an Easter brunch breakfast. But you can see, traditional Easter, Polish Easter breakfast would be, of course, Polish sausage. You have eggs, bread, horseradish, beets, and the other really tradition is white borscht, which is pretty much a soup, white borscht, with sausage and egg. It's an acquired taste. Some people either love it or they kind of are not impressed. But in, again, Polish tradition, an Easter breakfast would not be an Easter breakfast if you didn't have Polish borscht with an egg and Polish sausage. Here's another table Easter breakfast table. Again, you would have cold cuts, typically ham, pashtet, which is like a pate, cucumbers, tomatoes, and of course in the centerpiece would be representation of a lamb, sometimes made out of butter, representing Christ as risen Easter Sunday morning. Now now that we're done with breakfast, so we're into Monday, and in Polish tradition, maybe you've heard of this. It's called Śmigus Dingus, which is Wet Monday. And tradition says on a Monday in Poland, typically men would take, as you can see, large buckets of water and pretty much throw that water on the ladies, on the young ladies. This was supposed to be an introduction to spring, and it goes back many, many, many years. Tradition would be this is a sign of spring. So water represents life, so it's new life. And in tradition, Christ has resurrected, representing new life. So on Monday, to this day in Poland, that tradition is kept quite alive, especially in the countryside, in Zakopane and Góralski tradition, as you can see, but also in cities, people also will unfortunately take a bucket and throw that water on unsuspected ladies coming their way. So be aware if you are in Poland at the day after Easter. So Wet Monday, you may want to stay off the streets. So again, just wanted to share some Polish traditions that I grew up with, and hopefully you found them interesting. So on behalf of myself, my wife, my entire family, I want to extend to all my clients, all your friends and family members, wishing all of you a blessed, blessed Easter. And yes, Christ has truly, truly risen. So let us rejoice. And again, happy Easter to all my clients and your entire family. God bless. See you soon. Bye now.